Welcome to Inside the Studio with Greg Wurth, and today I want to talk about the Line 6 Helix Native plugin. Some of you might be familiar with the floorboard pedalboard version, which is extremely popular. It's been out for a few years now. I'm sure you're familiar with stuff like the Axe Effects, Kemper, this Helix, Head Rush. All these companies are coming out with these really cool and versatile units. They're floorboard and rack mount variations that have amp modeling, cab IRs, all kinds of effects, really cool switching systems and whatnot. So it's been allowing musicians to really travel light and have a really big sound with a bunch of presets in a small form factor without having to lug tons of heads and cabs and whatnot. Line 6 came out with the Helix a few years ago, and it's an extremely friendly user interface. I've used all of them, the Axe Effects, all that. They all sound great. It depends on the person. Some people like to really tweak deep. So you might want to get into the Kemper or the Fractal. Other guys like to just kind of have a quick sound, just be something very intuitive. You don't want to have to get deep into tons of menus and whatnot. And that's where the Line 6 Helix and, the Head Rush, which is the newer one, come into play, where those things are just a lot more user-friendly for guys that they don't want to screw around with all the settings and whatnot. And I'm kind of one of those guys. I just want to open something up and just have a quick sound. So this isn't to bash any of those other companies because they all sound fantastic. This Line 6 plugin in particular is interesting to me because, I'm a producer engineer and it has a plugin version. So it gives me something that I can get the same sounds as the floor unit. And what's really cool is that I can build patches on this. Say I'm mixing a record and a band really digs some of the sounds. We can save this and they can get the floorboard version and we can just transfer all those sounds there. And vice versa, they can come to me with sounds and I can import it. So to me, that's super valuable. Out of the box, it comes with a ton of presets. As you can see, tons of sounds here. Maybe a week or two ago, they came out with a new update with a couple more amp models, if I understand correctly, and tons of effects, like all of their legacy effects from the amp farm and echo farm and all that kind of stuff. So that's what's really cool about the Line 6 stuff too, is that they're continuing to support this and make it better. They're taking feedback from users and just changing things. So it's extremely cool. Just so a quick overview, the window here. This is kind of, your preset bin here where you can kind of save settings, recall. You can add new user banks, save your own settings, or you can recall presets, whatever. What I personally like to do is start with a new preset and kind of build as I go, unless there's something where I have, a couple presets that I've built already that I know might sound like what I'm looking for. But anyways, you can start with a preset here and you basically hit these blocks here, like say select that block and then double click this amp and that amp is there and I can bypass it and whatnot. You can go down here and tweak all the settings, the drive, all that, presence, everything that you're kind of familiar with. It does have pretty deep settings, like you can adjust the sag, hum, ripple, bias, and all that to kind of fine tune the amp sound and whatnot. You can come over here and you can adjust the mics, tons of different mics you can use, the distance, you can put low cut, high cut, early reflections, adjust the level. Very, very cool. Just from top to bottom, you got a bunch of distortions. So these are all distortion, drive, fuzz kind of pedals. Different compressors, EQs, modulation. You got tremolo, vibe, phaser, flanger, chorus, ring mod. Tons of different delays, and you can go mono, stereo, and then if you want to look at the legacy stuff, you hit the legacy. So that's the famous echo there. All right, and tons of reverb. You got pitch, synth, whammy stuff, filter. So you have a lot of really cool options, and what's cool is that you can create parallel paths. I don't want to get too in depth because if you're a guitar player, you can kind of figure out what you want. Say, for example, you just want to put a wah before the guitar, and then you want to put a reverb. Say you don't want it in line, so you can drag it down, and you can create a parallel path here. And you got a mix knob, and whatnot. So you can kind of create an effects loop and do all this intricate routing, which is very cool. What I dig about this, which I'm sure they're going to add an update to the actual unit, but this has an input and an output meter, which is important. And, you know, right now the hardware doesn't have that. And being an engineer, obviously you got to be very aware of your gain staging. Okay, so let's move on to some examples here. I've been showing you guys this live recorded song. And for this particular part, I'm going to use the electric guitar, and that was thrown off into an ISO booth. So there's not really any leakage in there, which is good. So it's just basically kind of like a really dry sound. I'll go ahead and play it for you. And then I had this preset called Crawling that I built. I like to build patches that sound like songs that I like. And Tom Petty passed away, so he's been on my mind a lot lately. I just was messing around one day and I kind of wanted to build a patch that was reminiscent to Tom Petty's Crawling Back to You. Before I show you what the patch sounds like, let me play the guitar part. It's not a bad sound. It's a dry, palm muted kind of little thing going on that's just playing in between the bass and stuff, adding some really cool tonality there. But I thought this was a perfect example because it was so clean. I could add something on here without being too aggressive. Like, because typically I would just throw it on a DI track. I wouldn't necessarily use this on a mic'd thing. You know, I might add some effects and whatnot, but if it was like an electric guitar amp that was dirty, I wouldn't really use this too much. So let's take a look here. I added the Monotar boost drive pedal, adding a little gain. I got the Tweed Blues amp here. You can check out the settings that I have there. Got the Tweed 4x10 speakers, the 160 ribbon, one of my favorite microphones for guitar, 2-inch distance. I had a little low cut, high cut, things like that. And then I put off on a parallel path. I added a little bit of a gray flanger here for just a little subtle kind of sound. And then I added some EQ, 10-band graphic to kind of further tweak it. And then to finish it off, just a tiny bit of room verb to kind of make it sound like it's in a room. You know, I like that when adding room verb that's natural. It sounds like you're in there playing the guitar. And, you know, that's what you hear as you hear the room. I'll go ahead and play it bypassed, and then I'll engage the plugin so you can check that out. I like that. It adds a little bit of character and dimension to the track. This slow flanger kind of works cool because of the palm muting. It just gives a little bit more dimension, and just the tone of the amps. I love it. I'm going to go ahead and play the track with the drums, bass, and guitar. I'll start with the native plugin bypassed, and then I'll engage it after a few seconds. So very subtle, but I think it just brings it out and makes it interesting, adds a little bit of character, as I mentioned. I showed you guys what this plugin can do. Is there anything that I would like to add? It's a slight nitpick. It's not that big of a deal. Most compressor pedals don't have gain reduction metering. I'm just kind of used to that. You know, as you know, hardware rack mount compressors, you kind of keep track of how much gain reduction you're doing. Like I said, it doesn't really affect too much. It's not that big of a deal. Like, I didn't even use a compressor in this chain, but you know, if I can have everything, give me a gain reduction meter. But other than that, I absolutely love this plugin. I recommend it. I think you should check it out. I'm not sure exactly how much it is, but it's definitely worth it. I've been using this a ton. I can't get enough. So thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Please subscribe to the newsletter on my website and subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next time.